Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn now. Senator, great to see you. Great to have you here today. First off, how seriously do you take these nuclear threats?
Sandra, we need to believe our adversaries when they say something like this. And we know that Putin feels like he's being pushed into a corner. And because of that, we need to realize that he may do something that is erratic. But what we also have to realize is that there are probably 4 different ways, I would say, to deal with someone like Vladimir Putin. Of course, you've got sanctions. You have the international courts. You have international groups. And one that he really watches is the court of public opinion. And he sees how countries like Turkey, like South Korea, of course the U.S., and other members of the EU are standing against him and what he is doing. He has watched Xi Jinping question what he is doing with Ukraine. And it is going to be vitally important that the international community speak up and say, no, you can't, and no, you don't, and no, you won't, especially when it comes to annexing part of Ukraine, which is against international law.
I want to play out David Petraeus, the general, basically laid out where he sees things, the state of the war today. Listen.
He is losing. And the battlefield reality he faces is, I think, irreversible. In other words, over the last 7 months, President Zelensky and Ukraine have mobilized vastly better than has Russia.
So do you agree with that? Is the momentum on the side of Ukraine at this moment, Senator?
I would say the momentum is with Ukraine, and it is why it is important for Ukraine to be able to purchase what they need in order to defend themselves. It is why it is important for NATO to step up and help Ukraine. I think the other thing to look at, Sandra, is that public sentiment globally is with Ukraine. And people know that Russia is trying to push their way into global dominance and acceptance. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Russia in these actions and the humanitarian violations that they have carried out when the UN begins to look more closely at this. Russia should be removed from the UN Security Council. Russia should be held to account for going to Wagner and saying, we want to employ mercenaries, and bringing them into Bucha, into areas like that. The way they attacked, beheaded, destroyed so many of the Ukrainian people. War crimes, yes, indeed. And that is something the Senate started looking at last week. We had a hearing at Judiciary Committee. We will continue to take that up.
Because so many watching this want to know, especially after his most recent move to illegally annex those parts of Ukraine, how Vladimir Putin himself will be held accountable. A lot of pressure on Congress, obviously, also to act. Right. Senator, thank you very much for joining us today. Good to see you.
Good to join you. Thank you.
Okay.